Hayashki lovers of new products, Vidashiks, Vidosik new products, and so on. 3 more options. Today, another product of the DC universe appeared at the end of 2022. He, of course, was not hatched for as long as the film, Shazam, but they also spent a couple of years on him. Here, of course, the pandemic also threw in at least a year. I think that those involved in the graphics in the film did not sit idly by, and this is why the film turned out very, very well. There is practically nothing to complain about the framework. Because for me the chronology in DC is an incomprehensible thing, at least for now. But if you are a very big fan and rummage around in this movie universe, then please write in the comments when Superman landed on Earth and when was the Suicide Squad. Because in Black Adam they say that Black himself spent 5,000 years in hibernation. And then that the events in which he is mentioned took place 2,600 years before our era. With absolutely simple calculations, we can say that this is not our day. For these 400 years, I have a very obvious inconsistency. And other indirect signs also confused me a little. Hypothetically, as I mentioned earlier, this should be like the future. But in an unknown country called Kandak, there is a very old car industry.
That's what we do.
So old, of course, and this is only my subjective observation that I have not seen a cassette recorder since 2015.
God willing, we won't see him again.
Like if you still have one in your car. But they were still flowers. If anything, then I'm still talking about cars. Of course. I remember that the Soviet auto industry licked the first version of the Zaporozhets from Fiat, but at the beginning of the film the second version of Zepor is shown. Big-eared, hunchbacked. It doesn't matter. Here Soviet cars are shown in the film. Penny-eared, Troika, Shocker. Of course. I unspeakably believe in the Soviet auto industry that it can still drive for a long time, but not 400 years. No matter how thick the metal on the body is. And then we are finished off with our break in the template by Amanda Waller, who, according to previous films, should be in the so-called Our Days. Although, it is worth paying tribute. Perhaps civilization has not fully reached here, which we observe in cars.
That's what we do.
Well, except for the alien invaders, of course, who ride on hypersonic flying mopeds with a very large glove compartment that fits a person, and who do not need roads. I don't know if I got the exact description of this unknown, undeveloped and small country, but you can correct me in the comments. To the question, why do I consider this unknown civilization undeveloped? I will remind you that the Justice Society, which is very in tune with the Justice League, flew in some super-duper jet luxury laboratory to a country where there are still gasoline cars from the 70s of the last century. In the same place, by the way. The Wind Girl was very pleased with the option of her partner.
What do you do?
Wind. You?
I grow.
Cool.
And if anyone wants to say that a girl with an IQ of 167 did not think about the fact that all parts of the body increase in this stamp and this should be cool, then let's take a closer look again.
I grow.
Cool.
As the story unfolds in this beautiful film, we hear about alien invaders holding the main city and the whole country in severe fear. It reminds me of something from our universe of our days. Here in this moment, admirers of one of the conspiracy theories, about a management group of people in the amount of 10 people who run the world. And, perhaps, in space. Because not all reptiles need oxygen, they can state their vision in the comments with all the similarities and differences. At the same time, the memory raises the words of Superman to the surface, where he promises to take care and protect the entire globe. I suspect that the whole planet was limited only to the states of America. Because Kandak has been exploited by the bad boys for more than a decade, in which, as I understand it, power is also inherited. But, in this I remind you, is still the first minutes of the film. It says in plain text that neither Aquaman nor Superman will come to save this godforsaken corner called Kandak.
This is not a very good plan.
And why? What happened? They flew to Chernobyl to an abandoned nuclear power plant. And even in this unknown corner, forgotten by all the supers, the room of the main shipwreck of this city is shown. Who is really a fan of Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman and other DC Persians, collecting posters and figurines of these characters? Maybe not everything is as bad in this backwater as they showed us. But if we take the logical component, then yes, it is very small here. And it's not clear now how this cinematic universe will stitch together two Shazams. Hypothetically, both the previous Shazam and the current Black Adam are equivalent. They received their heroic strength and invulnerability from the same stamps with staves.
Or we could just do that.
Here's another one that popped out. Those who managed to watch both Shazam and Black Adam will easily see this inconsistency after my previous words. But what are we all about the lack of logic and various inconsistencies? No. There is enough of this goodness here, but I still want to highlight that the film is cool. Effects stuffed to the most not indulge. The visual picture is simply gorgeous. The idea, just like an idea, and not a hole in the logic, is also cool. As one of the templates used earlier in films, there are unexpected twists and turns in both the plot and the characters. Pretty, almost kindly. There is something to smile at. It's all present. And even the mention of the Justice Squad, which is not the same as the Justice League. And a day after watching, I would like to look into the near future and find out, have cars changed in this unknown country?
He does have a point.
Although, of course not, there are a lot of questions and not all about it, but I recommend the movie. And, of course, if you like the way I present it to you, then I want to ask for your support. Now you can support me by subscribing on Patreon. I will attach the link in the description of the video and in the information about the channel. Thanks in advance and happy viewing. And for those who still watched it up to this point, I will share one more of my surprises. There is one postscript in this film. The second one, along the way, was clamped down. But at least there is one and that's good. So when you see the credits, do not rush to turn it off, scroll forward a little bit.